Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Inside Fnatic's Brush. I am your host Matt Scott. Thank you for tuning in again today. We're doing a special episode as we will go over what happened in the past few months, which was the MSI 2024 tournament, Fnatic's performance, and looking into summer as it will start this weekend with the first game versus Carmine Corp. Now, following LEC Finals Spring 2024, Fnatic manages to qualify for MSI after 6 years of not participating in the event. Before we talk about MSI, a quick word about what happened during the finals. Fnatic came in with a big challenge, having to face G2 into the lane swap meta. Going into the first game, Fnatic looked rather in control and surprised by managing the lane swap and the challenge that G2 was putting in front of them by winning the first game in a rather convincing way. Going into the second game, the lane swap starts again, and Fnatic seems to be going into the same way with a good advantage. However, multiple misplay and forces in pure Fnatic style make it that G2 comes back into the game and manages to win it. Following this, Fnatic struggles to get back into the next games, and G2 take a very comfortable 1-3 to win yet another trophy. While the result is disappointing, we can always point out the fact that Fnatic look rather comfortable in a lane swap meta that looked to be in control in G2's hands. This obviously brought a lot of hope into the fans' heart going into MSI, hoping for the best. The first team especially being GAM, who had faced some issues following the controversy in the VCS on player betting and had to play with two standings going into the tournament. Despite Fnatic having little time between the finals, the visa, and heading into China for training, they head into the first game versus GAM in a rather comfortable approach. They don't go too complicated into their drafts and play what they know. First game with Aorn for Oscarinin, Xayah Rakan very manageable lane. Same for the second game into GAM. Oscarinin also picks Twisted Fate, mix it up a little bit. We put Razork on comfortable, aggressive champions, Vi, and Xin Zhao, who are capable of taking over the game by themselves. Those are great first two games for Fnatic to put them into their confidence zone going into a much bigger opponent, Top Esports. Now any Fnatic fan who's been around for some time will have their PTSD kicked in by the name Top Esports. The reverse sweep is still fresh into their minds, but this time we're heading into a best of 3 format. Going into the first game, once again, Fnatic doesn't go too complicated, and Humanoid decides to lock in the LeBlanc. Unexpectedly, Humanoid goes absolutely crazy onto Cream and dominates his lane. However, we can't say as much about the bot lane, who is struggling against a stronger duo of Jakilov and Meiko. Despite Humanoid's best efforts, Fnatic will lose the first game, but not completely defeated going into the second game. This time, change up of the draft a little bit, Oscarinin decides to take his responsibilities and locks in Camille. We have another LeBlanc for Humanoid, and this time Kalista and Renata Glass for the bot lane, a great combination, especially against Top Esports draft, which is very much a go-in composition. Fnatic this time look much more comfortable and dominant and take over the second game. Going into the third game, Top Esports definitely looks like an opponent who can be damaged and beaten. However, the draft doesn't look too much like Fnatic style, where this time Razork is put instead on Sejuani. While Razork is a great player, Sejuani hasn't always been his best champion, and we know he's popular for missing his ultimates. Despite a Xayah Rakan bot lane, which is usually quite comfortable for Noah and Jun, this time the game is much harder to play. Despite his best efforts, Oscarinian can't have much done on his Zac, and Fnatic lose 1-2. Going into the final game of play-ins for the final spot into playoffs, Fnatic faces GAM once again. While the first game is quite in control with Fnatic again drafting what they know, Cassante, Xin, Orianna, Kalista and Ashe, the second game is much more of a barnstormer, going into the 40 minutes back and forth. As usual, Fnatic gives us the biggest heart attacks ever. In the end, Fnatic will end up winning 2-0 and qualify themselves going into playoff. As it was expected with the new format, Fnatic is drawn straight away into GENG, probably the strongest opponent into the tournament. No one is expecting much from Fnatic here, especially the way they struggled winning against Top Esports versus the best Korean team. All of the analysts point out a 0-3 for Fnatic. GENG should win this comfortably. Despite all the predictions and the strength of the two teams, Fnatic doesn't look completely ridiculous. They try to match as much as possible GENG's aggression and plays onto the map. However, it won't be enough, as Chovy really creates a difference for GENG and the rest of the team follows through. Despite Fnatic's best efforts, GENG does fold the game 0-3, but Fnatic looks stronger than ever and grown from their past games at MSI. Sent straight into the losers bracket, Fnatic is here to face Team Liquid. Following their performance against GENG, are expected to win versus Team Liquid quite handedly. However, Fnatic does not play their game and are completely absent from the best of 5. Team Liquid just play together better, completely outdo Fnatic, and Fnatic is sent back home in a humiliating 3-1 defeat. As expected, the fans were angry, asking for results, asking for answers, and as usual, calling for players' names. Once the situation calmed down, Fnatic decided to come up with 2 videos. One available on their app, which was an explanation from Dardo on their performance and their expectations, followed a few days later by the legends in action. Now first, a quick word about Dardo. I know a lot of you are not a big fan of him, have asked him to be fired, but I feel like there's been a slight transformation on his approach. Following the legends in action, he's been more affirmative and calling out players' bullshit, especially talking about players going late to bed, looking tired, and not playing 100%. On his interview with Pete, while of course he was explaining the usual that they were working hard and they were trying their best to get the trophy, there were a few points that he put forward that I found quite interesting. Specifically, the structures that they were put in place and developed, the fact that there were some mental problems within the team, Noah obviously fighting against himself, Jin getting tilted, and that they were working to find the best way to solve this. He also debunked some of the myths about Fnatic going to training late, as this was a special case between the finals and going to China, where getting visas usually take a week and a half of working days for them to get managed. While those are some first encouraging steps, I still think we need to see much more. The efforts that have been done need to be tenfold, and despite the fact that we believe all in the team that they can be successful and gain the trophy, some of the mentality, cultures, and training structures need to be improved. Hearing the coaches in Dardo, it seems that they're doing the necessary steps, but we've yet to see the results. Obviously, fans will stay annoyed and complain as long as the trophy won't be lifted. The Legends in Action also showed us another part of Fnatic, which is Razork fitting into his captain role. The content team within Fnatic gave us a candid eyesight of what happens when players are frustrated of their loss, and the conversations that they have and the tough love that they give each other. Razork was on the forefront of this, pointing out the issues within the team. One of the first things he complained about was the perceived satisfaction of losing against GENG in a 0-3 fashion. While Nightshare was putting forward more of the progress and how he was satisfied of the increase in performance of the play, Razork really didn't agree with this approach and was pointing forward more the fact that he felt that we were being satisfied with a 0-3 loss. In my point of view, I think both Nightshare and Razork are pointing out important factors. While Nightshare is putting forward the fact that the team did look indeed better and was able to not look completely ridiculous against GENG, Razork on the other side may have interpreted this as the fact that we're just satisfied in losing and not looking at the bigger picture maybe. Razork as a player wants to get those wins, wants to get that international recognition through trophies and have his hard work rewarded. This is showcased a bit later as well. Following the Team Liquid loss, tensions are high and Razork is the one who decides to go forward and showcase his opinion in front of the team. This time, it's no holds barred. Razork says what he has on his mind, pointing forward the fact that the players don't look motivated, they're not talking in game, and they're not setting themselves up for success. One of the things he points out is that even with the fact that he was feeling sick, he felt that he was way more into the game than some of his teammates that were in 100% form. What is pointed out a bit later is that players are indeed not being focused, especially on their sleeping time, coming late, and a comparison is drawn with G2, with the fact that G2 is much more disciplined in this approach and that Fnatic has a lot of work to reach that level. Razork also points out the issues with each of the players, Jhin being tilted when Noah is not in the game, Noah being in his own head, and Humanoid not feeling the energy to play when he feels that the game is doomed. While a lot of people would have seen this as a crisis point within the team, those are natural conversations that happen. This doesn't mean that the players hate each other, they just need to tell themselves these things sometimes. Now that the problems have been pointed forward, it's time for Fnatic to make the right moves. They know where their issues lie, they know how to fix them, and with the Valorant team coming up short in Shanghai, we will have Ryan, who is the mental coach of the organization, spend probably more time within Fnatic. And for those who've paid attention to Twitter, there's been an announcement by Fnatic to have another performance coach join the team. It's finally nice to see Fnatic putting the resources in and put the efforts at the level of their ambition. Going into summer, the structure of the format has slightly changed, where we'll only have 2 games during the weekend, except for the last week, which will be a 3-game Super Week. The first opponent will be a restructured KC who has completely changed their top side and, according to the first rumors, look already a bit stronger. It will definitely be a much more challenging game for Fnatic going into a new KC who's reinvigorated with younger talents who are hungry for results. There's also a trend for teams who come back from MSI to usually have a disappointing start. So I wouldn't be surprised if Fnatic lose their first games before they get back into their groove and finally find a style that matches their performance. So tell me, what did you think of Fnatic's performance at MSI? How do you think they're gonna fare at LEC summer? And what do you think about the management's response to the results following MSI? Leave all your comments below and I'll be happy to see you after the first week of LEC. I've been Matt Scott, thank you for tuning in and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.